series I thought would be a 3-part series, but unfortunately, I can't go past a half hour on my videos. I had to redo it on this last part over it. I'm not willing to upgrade until I got at least a certain amount of subscribers that feel comfortable of investing too much. I'm already investing a lot of time, energy, effort, and other things into this. Um, I got a big family. I got to support and can't do that until I know, better. But let's get back to the fourth and final part, learning our rights by the three great channels. I've been watching these three for a few years now. I think you should go subscribe, let them know I sent you, make sure you're subscribed here, secure our rights, and let's get into it.
It'll be past everyone's bedtime soon.
So let's get to
We should move forward. And I'll just say, talking to James about what he's dealing with brings to mind how important, essentially citizen journalism is to the health of our democracy. I mean, the hardest hit facet of the news business is local journalism. There's just not a business model that can sustain it. And Stephen, actually, we were talking about this the other day, how YouTubers in some cases have stepped in to fill the void.
Yeah.
Can you talk, I don't know, maybe a little bit about local journalism?
Because as you see with James, the mainstream media, which I came from, you're taught to sort of operate a certain way, but the chaos that's created by lack of accountability and power has to be met with a very creative type of journalism. And that's the type of journalism that James can do, that we do at The Real News. We're much more creative. We follow the case of Thomas to the bitter end. Yes. Most mainstream media would have moved on, but we don't move on. And I think that's what James is going to all sorts of court hearings and would get no coverage whatsoever. The only way to respond to the chaos that lack of accountability creates is with creative journalism. And that's why cop watchers and independent journalists are great.
Stephen, that's such an excellent point. And I think there's an underlying question that informs a lot of this discussion, and that's, why is any of this important? Why is local journalism important? Why is knowing your rights important? Why is it important for Stephen and I to sit here and talk to you all about this? And even more critically, why are you, the people who watch us and talk to us and comment on our work, so important to this, our entire question of preserving our right? I guess these are what we would call existential questions, which means in part they're about constructing, or perhaps in what Stephen was talking about, defining the type of world we want to live in. For me, I see in the work of James Madison and James FREEMAN a struggle to reconcile worldviews that, although not explicitly explained, are at the core of who we are, how we think about ourselves, and how a subtle change in the balance of power can forever alter our lives in ways that I think can be hard to live with. I have a sort of a simple way to boil this down into two words that are critical to understanding what I'm talking about. One is consent, and the other is dissent. One cannot exist without the other, and both are critical to maintaining and expanding our rights to live our lives as we choose, with a government that serves us, not the other way around. Okay, what do I mean? Let me try and explain. I think the whole notion of holding power, cops, politicians, the government in general accountable starts with the idea of consent, the foundation, the assumption underlying the whole concept of governance by and for the people. There lies a simple notion that wielding power cannot occur without the consent of the people. And I think the idea is self-evident in what it means, but still important to re-examine. Consent means that there is an implicit agreement in every government action that we have consented to the use of power for some sort of common good. That means essentially, if police are empowered to write traffic tickets for speeding or reckless driving, we, the people, have consented to this because we believe this use of power is for the good of all of us, and that so-called common good outweighs the intrusion on our personal liberty in order to benefit everyone. So when you see police writing tickets for quotas, or to fund their own salaries, or to accrue accolades, or simply make an arrest just because they feel like it, that implicit consent is being erased. When you examine tools like the field sobriety test or these fake forensic techniques that are used to incriminate innocent people, they are offensive to us, to all of us, because that's not what we consented to. We didn't consent to erode the Fourth Amendment so law enforcement industrial complex could continue to fight the ill-conceived war on drugs. And we didn't also consent to have our property confiscated without due process so the police could profit from the spoils of the aforementioned war on drugs. Nor do we consent that America's well-oiled punishment machine could wear us down with fines and fees to fund the same apparatus that continues to grind us into the ground. These things seem intrinsically wrong because none of us consented to them. And that's where the other word, dissent, comes in. Because the way we fight back when the political system ignores our consent is by dissenting. And the best way to do that is by using the process of accountability. For example, affirming our First Amendment rights, filing Freedom of Information Act requests to let those people in power know we don't agree to your terms of service. This is why people like James FREEMAN and James Madison and other cop watchers, and you know what, I'm gonna list a few.
Okay.
I'm gonna list a few.
Go ahead.
Cop watchers like David Boren and Monkey 83 and Otto the Watchdog and Liberty Freak and the Batusai and Lackluster and San Joaquin Transparency and Chuck Bronson and Blind Justice. And I think I saw Mrs. Justice earlier. Laura Shark, Tom Zebra, Joe Cool, Rights Crispy, Irate Productions, HBO Matt, Corners News, Amanda Acura, Long Island Audits, News Now, Johnny 5-0. So many others are so important. It's also why independent journalists like The Real News or Truth Out or our partners in these times are important as well. And even our mainstream media counterparts, who we do give a hard time on occasion, are vitally important to the process of dissent because it takes all of us, to take on the messiness of dissent. Wouldn't you agree, Stephen?
I totally agree.
Well, you know,
yeah.
You describe dissent as messy. And, you know, I think I'd like to give, do you want to talk about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing. You know, the whole thing with the Thomas story we unpacked tonight was messy. It was messy.
Yes.
It wasn't something you could organize in like a big, you know, investigative piece. You had to go piece by piece and confront different aspects of governance that were really not answering. And the only way you can really do it is by being messy yourself in some ways. So yeah, dissent is not always a clean. And, you know, that's why cop watchers and other types of creative forms of dissenting need to exist, because it can't always be copacetic and clean. Sometimes it just has to seem as messy as the system it's trying to address.
And, you know, Stephen, I'm glad you talked about the messiness of dissent. And I'm also glad you talked about how important transparency is and how important it is to have journalists and citizen journalists and cop watchers participate in this. And let me give you an example. It starts with a story of a group of state police officers in Connecticut facing a dilemma. They wanted to write lots of tickets to garner the approval of their superiors and special rewards and promotions. But there was just one little problem getting in the way. People aren't violating the law enough to meet their goals. So you know what, Dave, if you could just put a few clips on the screen so people can see this amazing reporting that was done. But these ingenious, heroic, oh, you don't have them? That's okay. But these ingenious, heroic cops decided they wouldn't be deterred by the people with the law. No. They devised a plan to bend the system and the law to their benefit. What did the cops I mentioned do? Okay, this is what they did. They entered hundreds, if not thousands, of bogus tickets into the system. They simply made up violations out of whole cloth. Now, and investigators say it doesn't seem like these tickets were issued against anyone specifically, which of course raises a whole bunch of other questions about what happened. A preliminary investigation found that over 25,000 fake or inaccurate tickets were submitted, and now almost a quarter of the entire police force participated in some form or fashion. There were a few officers who wrote over 600 bogus tickets each, and they also found that part of the motive was to juice the stats, to show troopers had written tickets to more white motorists in an attempt to dodge an accusation of racial bias. I'm not even going to touch that. But here's the part where both the consent and dissent work together and why both concepts are equally important. That's because none of this, and I mean none of it, would have come to light if a local newspaper had not unearthed the investigation into the fake tickets and reported it to the public. This whole manipulation of the criminal justice system to the advantage of a bunch of rogue officers was kept secret. So secret that until it was reported by journalists protected by the First Amendment, these officers literally had no consequences. That's right. After falsely swearing out thousands of bogus tickets, the officers received only mild internal discipline, a veritable slap on the wrist for committing professional perjury on a massive scale. And these same professional liars were allowed to go out into the community and continue to write tickets, make arrests, testify in court, and earn their lucrative pensions all at our expense. And let me repeat, it was only after a report by a Hearst-owned newspaper, only after the dissenters made us all aware of the issue, did the state government promise to undertake a criminal investigation into those troopers. And now even the governor himself has been forced to call for a criminal probe of the professional fraudsters who are still armed with guns and wearing badges. Now, who in their right mind would consent to that? Rogue ticket writers and congenital liars emerging unscathed. But my point here goes beyond the bad apples, apparently, living happily in the rotten barrel known as the Connecticut State Police. What's more important here is how easily and apparently without conscience the whole system of law enforcement can be used to facilitate widespread abuse of the power for some at the expense of the many, and how little the officers who are supposed to represent us care about that overreach. That is why we have to dissent. Consistency and continually. That's why we need local reporters, cop watchers, activists, auditors, citizen journalists, TV journalists, and of course, even us independent journalists here at the Real News, to provide this continuum of dissent that ensures that the government, by consent, remains intact. That's why we need people to use their cell phones to film police. And we need YouTube and citizen journalists like James Freeman and Madison to have access to courtrooms, regardless if it makes someone uncomfortable. What I'm saying is that we need all of us, every single one of us, to contribute, participate, and otherwise join the fight to preserve and expand our rights. No single person can do it alone, but together, I know we can. Right, Stephen?
I'm willing to stay outside as long as it takes.
That's beautiful.
Yep. I'll go right back out there after the show, and I'll be standing out there where you saw me at the beginning of the show doing journalism.
That is actually kind of beautiful.
Yeah. Well,
that is beautiful.
Commitment.
You know what? I think that's actually a great way to end the show.
Absolutely.
With your renewed commitment to journalism, the great outdoors, and corn nuts. So you know what? Before we go, I just have to make sure to thank James Madison and James Freeman for taking the time to be here with us, to share their insights, to share the incredible work they're doing. If you haven't already gone to their channels, you should definitely check them out. And I know you folks in the live chat had noticed there's some amazing cop watchers in there too. Maybe you want to go check out their channels. And I want to thank the mods of the show, Noli D and Lacey R. Thank you both for your support. Thank you for sticking by me, for showing up every Thursday and just being an incredible help to me. And also a very special thanks to our Patreons. We appreciate you so much. And in 1 second, I'm going to thank each and every one of you personally, especially my associate producers, John E. R., David K., Louis P., and my PAR super friends like Pineapple Girl. I saw you in the chat. Hi, Pineapple Girl. Shane Bushta, Chris R., Matter of Rights. But I want everyone watching to know that if you have video evidence of police misconduct or brutality, you can reach out to us. You can email us directly at par@therealnews.com. If you follow me on social media at Teos Baltimore on Facebook or Twitter, you can also reach out to me there. We have a Police Accountability Report Facebook page. We have a Police Accountability Report Instagram. We have a Police Accountability Report Facebook. So if you want to contact us that way, please do so. We're actually going to be taking about a week or so off just to go through the tips we've gotten. We have some shows in the works that we're working on. We're doing an extra big show coming up. I think we're going to be dipping back down into Texas, and it's going to be an in-depth show. We're working on it now. It's going to take us we've been working on it for the past 2 weeks. So that means it's going to take us 3 weeks to complete this show. So I really hope you'll stick with us to see it. And of course, we want to be able to reach out and help the people we can. Like I've mentioned before, there are a lot of conversations I have with people, interactions via email or messages where there's never a show produced. I just try to connect someone to legal aid, legal help. I try to help someone to fill out a Freedom of Information Act request, or just try to give them some general advice and guidance just to help them. And there's never a show that comes from it, but it takes a lot of time to go through all those tips and emails and comments. And I want to do what I can to help support people. So just so you know, I'm going to shout out all my Patreons, and I want to thank each and every one of you that showed up here tonight to participate in this conversation. I love the live chat. I wish I could have put even more of your comments up. And now for the great reading of thanks to the rest of my patrons. And I apologize if I don't get a name right. First, thank you to Matter of Rights, Shannon P., Cameron J., Farmer Jane USA, Joseph P., Marvin G., Kimmy Cat P., Dur Devil, Nope, Kurt A., Patty, Angela True T., Social Nationalist, David B., Marcia E., Daniel W., Zira M., Louis P., William T. G., DBM, Sushant, Kemi, John K., XXXX, Potshot, Kenneth Lawrence K., Stephen B., Blibbit, Cindy K., Dante Kipke S., Sescal S., John M., Keith B. M., Joe 6, 6 Estate AZ, John Miller, Gary T., Janet K., Ryan P., Mark William L., Noli D., Kyle R., Guy B., Calvin M., Stephen D., Ron F., Alan J., Trey P., Julius Geezer, Omar O., Umesh H., John P., Ryan, Lacey R., Rod B., Douglas P., Andrea J. O., RBMH, Siggy Young, Stephen J., Michael S. L., Default Urine, Celeste D.S., P.T., Just My Two Cents, Talia B., Peter J., Sean B., K. A., Joel A., Tim R., Larry L., Ronald H., Tamara A., Artemis L.A., John K., Jimmy Touchdown, TrueTube Live, Kenny G, A is Circle of the Quantum Note, Brian M, Byron M, Felonious Punk, Loretta S, Mike K. And to the new patrons, Michael Willis, Jodis, Frank K, Mary M, we appreciate you, your support, and to help make our work possible. And remember, if you have video evidence of police misconduct or brutality, please share it with us, and we might be able to investigate for you. Please email us the tips privately at par@therealnews.com. Thank you so much for everyone who was here tonight. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I know it was live. I know it was glitchy, but we did it with love, and we appreciate you so much. Please be safe out there.
All right, guys, that concludes part 4, the last part. All 4 parts. Please go back and watch if you haven't the first 3 parts of this. There's a lot to unpack. Let's unpack them in the comment section. I need a lot of comments. And if you've been watching this far, I really need you to subscribe if you haven't. And those that have and are subscribing, share this. Share it out to as many as you can. Try to encourage them to subscribe and comment. The most important, like, but of course, share and comment. I'm trying to grow this channel so I can provide way better quality 4K sound, 4K videos, out in the field work. I'm wanting to really grow and actually do a whole lot more and get a lot more involved in the communities, in the court systems, getting body cameras. But this all takes time and effort. So, don't seem like I'm getting anywhere yet. But those that are watching, I really appreciate it. And I really would appreciate if you would get more friends to come over and subscribe. Give me the comments what you want me to feature and go over. Like, I really want to go over like USC 241 and 242. I mean, over it completely and thoroughly, to give everyone on every level a way better understanding. You know, you hear these terms a lot, and people throwing these cases and this and that. I really want to dissect them with you so we all learn together. This is what it's about, learning our rights and securing our rights. So make sure you hit that like. After that, share it. And make sure you're subscribed with your bell notifications on, because there's a lot more videos coming your way. Have a good night.